I would like to talk to you from a supervisor's perspective on the role of product information in insurance. So it's about the PRIPS kit and the IPIT. The two new documents that will potential customers will be provided with from 2018 on. And so the one is for non-life, the IPIT, it's there, and the other one, the PRIPS. We heard many negative things and many solution or what you could do. I mean, we have to. It's there, and we have to live with it. So my topic is the role of product information, and of course, yeah, what we are facing here, we have a trend in Europe. Product information is a trend in Europe. It started with the usage key IID, and now there are new documents coming. And of course, now maybe you would expect me to say, I don't know, it's for the consumer, comparability, and so on. But I think the above all, the aim of product information. A product information document is standardization of such information. And we have here in history several examples. We have the metric system, and yeah, before the metric system, and you see the metric system took some time to establish before you had the meter, and before that you had 700 to 800 different lengths. And so this was, that's very good. That's an achievement. And the next example is the standardization of screws. And there's some experts say that this was a major achievement, the standardization to promote industrial revolution. Industrial revolution. Yes. And then I have another example here, which is the electronic car, and. So maybe the success will also depend on standardization here, so that you can really get, you can load your car wherever you want. And now I have only one example on the level of product information. That's the label on energy efficiency for goods, electronic devices, housings. Let me ask critical questions. How many product information sheets do you have, or will you have in place in your jurisdiction from 2018 on? I mean, it has to be something 3 or more, because you have already the 3 European ones, usage key IID, PRIPS kit, and EPIT. So who has more than 3? Can you show up more than 3 product information sheets? Yeah, on national level, all the ones, European level, only, no, not many reactions. Who has more than 5? I'm a bit disappointed. In Germany, in fact, next year we will have 7. Yeah, we have 7. And yeah, now you see the dilemma where we are. On the one side, I'm talking about standardization, and I'm saying standardization is a good thing, and it is. I mean, and on the other hand, you see from the landscape, and if you look at Germany from the landscape of product information sheets, there is a reason why we have 7. And the reason is because it's difficult to find one standard for different products with different aims. But I mean, I think I'm the first here to say that product standardization of product information is a good thing if it's designed in a consumer-friendly manner, and I believe in the recognition value, and also that it will contribute to financial education. But we have to give this some years. It's not in January 2018, and it's not in February 2018. So this will take some time. And I mean, I personally, I would limit it to 1 page, if possible. So if I had the chance, I would limit it to 1 page. now let's turn to the question, where does the standard apply? And I think that's very interesting because the product information as it is designed, it is for EPIT as well as for the PRIPS, it's on a very abstract level. So it's provided at the moment before the concrete consumer even knows that he would be interested in the product. And it's only so far you can set the requirements, because you are setting your type of consumer that should be interested, but that's it. You can't capture all consumers in your product information. You never will, and you will never be able, you never have a product information sheet that is personalized, unless you have a system where you have an abstract product information sheet, and then maybe in distribution, the distributors adds. You can have such a system, but that was not the political choice. And so this is, for me, it's very important, the abstract level, because especially for PRIPS, sometimes it looks like if it was very concrete, a concrete product, but in fact it is rarely, or maybe, rarely the concrete product. It's an abstract notion. So let's see where the product information fits into the new regulation, notably in the new IDD rules. I think this is very interesting because you have the three processes: manufacturing, then you have the offer and the distribution, and so you have the product information is interlinking the two processes, manufacturing and distribution, and in the target in the manufacturing you have the design, you have the notion of the target market, so it's very abstract. You have the product oversight, governance, organizational duties, and then you have the EPIT and the PRIPS, and they are something like a business card. This is when the process is finished within the company, and this is when you show your product, and ideally you translate the product in plain language and you show it to the consumer. And then it's where the target investor comes into play, and where the distribution comes, and here we have the IDD rules. So all these processes are, by the intention of the European legislator, they are feeding one into the other. And I think it's a good concept, and I hope it will be successful. I mean, as Pauline said, POC requirements and the concept of target market is an achievement. And so I would say also, let's see and wait how this will develop, I mean, and how this interlinks. Now I'm coming to the two product information sheets, EPIT and PRIPS. And I have one critical remark here. I wouldn't say you can really contrast EPIT and PRIPS kit, because they are so different. You can't see, I mean, heard it several times today, EPIT is good, PRIPS is bad. I mean, that's very simple. I mean, EPIT also for me, I worked on both dossiers. I mean, EPIT was an easy dossier. It was something you could read and you could understand, and you didn't need to consult so many people. It was so technical, and it was really, and I could recommend my member of the BOS to approve it, no problem. I can't tell you, I mean, I don't know how many briefings I wrote for the PRIPS dossier, and how difficult it was to find an answer to technical questions, and whether in the end we have a level playing field, yes or no, and whether this is even achievable, yes or no, whether we have comparability or we're giving information, and where the balance is, whether the whole thing in itself is consistent, plausible, and so on. So this is really a difference, and it's not a difference saying the one is a document with 2 pages with an option of 1 page more, and the other one is 3 pages, and there's nothing is comparable. And if I come to the picture of the boat, I mean, this is here, the EPIT is just a description of the boat, color, make, and so on. Yeah, the PRIPS kit this is a lifeboat, of course, because it's life insurance, and it is very complicated. It has a motor, or maybe it can even fly or whatever, and you have to say something about how it will behave when you sit in a driver's seat, and so you are taking the risk on how this boat is, at what speed and so on. It's moving, so it's really a difference between the two. And so also regarding, of course, liability for the PRIPS kit, the companies are liable for the content. For the EPID, of course, I mean there's responsibility, but in the EPID, let's see, it's here. It clearly says that this is only some summarized information, that in fact the consumer has to read the contract. Of course, you always have to read the contract, but the way the PRIPS regulation is designed, there is a lot of responsibility for the content of the PRIPS kit itself. So the PRIPS kit itself is a document for which you are liable. Here you can see, I mean, we saw it already before, the icons which are good, and this is one of the policy choices. There was the presentation of the format was another one. The standardized format for all classes. I mean, this was key for the questions, because in non-life you have also private health insurance, so you have to be careful what you're asking, only general questions, otherwise it won't fit. Yeah, and then we have this extra page. This came from the beginning, from the idea that if you have multi-risk coverage, would it fit the 2 pages, yes or no? In fact, I can tell you from German perspective that I would say 95% of all non-life contracts will need the 3rd page and will show the necessity for it. So this will be rather the standard. So I'm not saying something about whether for the PRIPS kit 3 pages will be enough. I mean, yeah, this is clearly another leak of product information. It has common points with product information sheets as such. I mean, we did a survey on all the product information sheets we have, also on national level, and the key information is more or less the same. But here the details, the technical details regarding risk, costs, and performance, this is really an upgrade of product information. I'm not talking about whether it's beneficiary consumer, yes or no, but you have to recognize it as different. And of course, the PRIPS kit can only be as good as is level 1 regulation. That's clear too. And so let's come to technical details. I won't tell you about the technical details, but I want to show you, I mean, this here, the semi-risk indicator, I think it's a very powerful graphic. It will change the market. I mean, if you think of the insurance products here, and not only insurance products, the PRIPS kit also, unlike the EPID, has a cross-sectoral scope. So you will see here, structured products, maybe in 6 or 7, you will see unit-linked insurance contracts, maybe in 4 and 5, and then you will see with profit somewhere in 1, 2, 3 or so. And you will clearly, the consumer will see the difference. And he also will see the difference for the liquidity warning. I mean, this is, you can say liquidity risk is something else than the question of the profile, of the liquidity profile. But from a consumer perspective, it's very important whether you can allocate, you're allocating your savings, whether you can change, whether you can, whether you're bound by this choice for how long, or whether you can exit early and at what price. So all insurance contracts will have this warning. And I think it's a very powerful tool, and very, from the consumer testing we know that this has an effect. It raises awareness of consumers. And here, for the performance scenarios for EBIPs, the point I want to stress, which I think is an achievement for the pure investment products. You have, of course, only the scenarios of how the investment part is developing. For EBIPs, you have a second scenario on an alternative scenario, which is the death scenario. I think that's important too, because in insurance you have the either or the other. I mean, either you hold it until maturity, or the insurance event happens, you die, and then your family gets the insured sum. So this is not an adaptation to insurance in a PRIPS kit. Then another achievement here in the summary cost indicator. Here, I mean, this is the cost indicator, I would say, is really revolutionary, because it's all cost, implicit, explicit, and this level of disclosure, also in particular for transaction costs, if I think of the investment industry, they never wanted to show the transaction costs. Now they are forced to, and this is really a level of disclosure, transparency that has not been achieved with other product information sheets. And so I think this is an achievement, and also that we, for cost indicator, we are using one methodology. So, yeah. PRIPS challenges. Of course, there are many challenges. You probably know all about the MOPs, multiple option products. I mean, they are at stake in the remaining RTS negotiations, so I won't say anything on that. Only that it is, it's a pity. These MOPs, it's a generic document, and if you think what I said, it's abstract information you can give on product information in a product information sheet. For the MOP, you have, before concluding a MOP, you have other steps to be taken by the consumer. He has to decide on the investment option and so on. So why should he access every underlying investment option in a PRIP format, or following the PRIP requirements beforehand, if this is a decision he might never take, maybe, and it's not relevant for him at that time of the day. So I think we have a bit too much regulation in this field. And then I want to draw your attention to the so-called EOS PRIPS. The name has changed. This is about the PRIPS with environmental or social objectives. It used to be the S&E PRIPS. And there is a consultation running until the 26th of March, and so please participate in this consultation. It's an important paper, an interesting paper. It was quite a challenge because within the mandate, it was we were mandated not to set any labels, so we don't say anything about the products. We are not judging whether a PRIPS product is serving this objective, yes or no. All we are saying is how can the consumer match his needs with the strategy of the insurance, no, not only insurance, but of the PRIP manufacturer. And so we need input on this to improve it. And in fact, the technical advice itself is only 8 pages. So maybe it's better regulation. It's really only 8 pages. Yeah. Okay. So I'm coming to an end already. Role of product information, further steps. From what we heard this morning and also this afternoon, I mean, they are the product information sheets we have now, they are not perfect, and this will remain a challenge in the future. For the ESAs and for the NCAs, now, first of all, we need legal certainty. We need some question and answers. But then, when all this is in place, then we need new supervisory practices. We need convergence of administrative practices in the EU, and also in order to prevent any market hurdle, because the supervisors have to liaise for cross-border business. If one supervisor is responsible for the company, and so he's responsible for the organizational duties on product information, but he's not responsible for the marketing. So in case you want to take any sanctions, supervisors have to liaise and to see that they find common practices here. And so these new powers, fines, sanctions, interventions, they have to be administered with care. And then, of course, and this is something that will start almost immediately because of the delayed application, the critical assessment, valuation and review of rules and regulation. And of course, from the work in the PRIPS subgroup, the expert there, they know we know where there's improvement, and so I think this work will start almost immediately after when the application starts. And my personal wish would be, it's a bit like what Pauline was saying, the way we should draft regulation, only the involvement of industry. It's the picture I want I have in mind is a bit different. It is starting with consumer testing first before you draw up any regulation, because the moment you have, this is how it was done with PRIPS, you had the regulation and then we did the consumer testing to see what works, visualization and so on. But in fact you should start with consumer testing first, then consultation of stakeholders on the results of consumer testing, and maybe some kind of plan, objective, how you want to regulate. And then I would say, allocate it to experts, and they should work on it, but there is a ban on any lobbying for a certain time. So, and then what I would always also, I think what's important, that you start from scratch. You start with a skeleton, what you want to have, and then you don't use any copy paste. I mean, you can have a stock taking, but don't copy paste, because the thing with copy paste is that your regulation becomes has more and more pages, and what we really need also from both sides, for the industry to implement, but also for us as supervisors, because in the end we need to supervise this, is a smaller volume of regulation and more precise rules here. And maybe this is now the big challenge. How will we supervise the implementation of the product information requirements? This is really a challenge. We are discussing this at BaFin. It's very complicated. We are talking about millions of products, and we will certainly not have some kind of pre-notification process or so. That's not feasible. There's no budget, there's no staff for that, and we are a big supervisor. So this will be something, it has to be risk-based, a risk-based approach, and there has to be also some trust in the industry, and some dialogue, and I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.